I'm so thrilled to have back on the podcast today Nathan Fellman, the co-founder of the Harkness House in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is a middle school micro school that also has part-time programming for homeschoolers, but is also a state recognized private school in the state of New Hampshire. And students are able to attend, some of them tuition free or at reduced tuition rates, thanks to school choice policies in New Hampshire that enable education funding to follow students with education freedom accounts. And I wanted to have Nathan back on the podcast today to talk about some of these expansion plans that he has, or actually not even plans, that are the expansion that is currently underway in serving more homeschoolers and high schoolers beyond the middle school level because there's so much demand for high school programs in the micro school space. And just as a recap, Nathan was a longtime public school educator, taught in the public schools in New Hampshire, and as an administrator for over 20 years, and launched the Harkness House in the fall of 2022 as a response to what he saw during COVID in terms of the benefits of intentionally small, more individualized learning through sort of hybrid schooling and so forth that occurred during the pandemic disruption. So, Nathan Fellman, welcome back to the Liberated Podcast.
Thank you so much, Carrie. As always, it's great to chat with you about this stuff and talk about our journey and where we're at and where we're headed. I think, as you know, this is your work, right? So it's exciting times for school choice and just different opportunities and micro schools and schools like ours to really take root and offer a difference for families. So excited to be here and talk to you about that and about how we got to where we are.
Yeah, I'd love to start there if we could, Nate, because you started with co-founders who were also colleagues of yours from the public schools and really wanted to hone in on that middle school space because you felt like there wasn't a lot of options for families in the middle school space. And very quickly, you realized that there was demand for programming beyond simply a 5 day a week private school, that there was this large homeschooling community in New Hampshire that wanted other things. And you've really been so adaptable and so eager to, recognize the demand in the community and respond to that as entrepreneurs do. So I wonder if you can share a little bit about that evolution over the last couple of years of running the Harkness House.
Absolutely. So, educational entrepreneurship, when you say it, kind of almost sounds like an oxymoron sometimes because, uh, you know, uh, uh, the government has picked the winners in public schools, right? And so that's inherently not entrepreneurial and so not adaptable. And I think one of the things that I've found in founding, a private school is we've just so much more flexibility to respond to the needs in front of us and to the sort of the educational market that's in front of us, rather than a one size fits all. You get what you get because you pay taxes. And so we launched, and I'm just going to give you sort of what the idea was initially is adolescent kids in middle school, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth grade don't get enough attention. They also don't want attention, so it's easy to ignore them. So we cram them into classes of 30, and we hope that they get through middle school well adjusted enough to access some curriculum in high school and then do whatever they're going to do afterwards. Um, and what we saw during the pandemic, as you mentioned, while it was almost entirely terrible, the small classes of every other day were great in class size. So every other day was terrible, but the kids being in classes of 12 instead of 24 or 15 instead of 30 was so incredible to see, as having spent 20 years working with adolescent learners in the middle school, kids that never would have spoken and I never would have noticed in class just come alive because you can't hide in a class of 12. And so that to me was like takeaway from the pandemic. Everything was bad. This was it. And so we launched a school that was basically we're going to focus on kids first over everything else, and we're going to put them in small classes so that we can do that. That was the premise of the school. We were going to be a private school, sixth through ninth grade, and just focus on small classes and kind of a traditional curriculum of a sort of post-secondary prep private school charging $15,000 a year, right? Sort of standard. And then we went through the approval process with the state. That takes a while, and we got our final approval in August of 2022. So August, kids from families that are going to spend $15,000 a year on education already know where they're going in September. And so we said, uh-oh, we got to be flexible. We got to be adaptable. What is the market out there? And we found a huge homeschool community in New Hampshire that many of whom, like us, were sort of COVID defectors. We sort of said, we're doing this a little, we could do this differently, right? We can make this better. And many of whom were homeschooling previous to COVID, but were very happy that they had made that decision. And so they came to us, and we were built around being a small school. So we're capped at 12 students in every class and capped at 100 students as total enrollment. And so we went through that process of sort of responding to this community that was out there that was looking for middle school opportunities to supplement what they were doing at home. And so we said, let's offer a 2-day program, a 4-day program, a la carte classes if they just want to come and experience a math class or an English class. And let's respond to that community. So on October 1st, we got 1 student. And by the end of the year, we had 10 students taking a variety of, 1-day and 2-day programs. And of those 10 students, 9 of them converted to full-time when we started offering full-time in the following year. And that was a shift for them because they were all homeschoolers, whether COVID defectors or previous homeschoolers. And so what we found was by partnering with families, by responding what students want to learn rather than dictating a curriculum, 100% of a curriculum to them, we really found a community here with that homeschool, sort of philosophy and ideology. And so they trusted us to say, hey, we're going to go full time. And the other thing about being 100 families max is I get to know all of them. So they come from we have religious homeschoolers and non-religious homeschoolers and unschoolers and COVID defectors and traditional private school students now that were looking for a full-time, full program, all coming together and accessing our programs on an equal playing field, and that has just been really incredible. And we have every kid that started out, whether it was with 1 class or a 2-day program or 4-day program, has increased their participation. So if you were 1 class, maybe you're doing 2 classes now, or a 2-day program. Started out in a 2-day program. A lot of kids moved up to a 4-day program. And then obviously we've converted a lot of those kids that were part-time into full-time, which is, it's not our goal. Our goal is to respect all of the family decisions about how they want to proceed through the education pathways. And so we started out as a traditional private school that wanted to attract folks that were going to pay $15,000 a year for a pre-college curriculum. And we've since shifted to, all right, now we offer full-time and part-time programs. So we're not just a traditional private school. And also, I'm not sure the paperwork's worth it in the state of New Hampshire to stay recognized by the state because it's a lot of work. And we could just be a micro school and not a So I was committed to we're a private school, and now we've adapted and said, do we really need that? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, let's feel it out. So that was one tenet that we started on. We started on pre-college, and now we're sort of open to all pathways. We've got this great partnership with Nashua Community College, which I want to talk a lot about. I know we'll get to that. But it's not sort of you're going to come here and then go to a traditional competitive 4-year college to get a degree that I'm not sure means anything anymore. And we're just much more open to what do you want to do. And then the third thing is we always were kind of searching for our identity. So a tangible identity. And if you ask me, it's our mission statement: give every kid a seat at the table, curiosity, creativity, and engagement. That's what we're into. That's what we're doing. And so, but that's not tangible, right? Curiosity is not tangible. Creativity is not tangible. What does it look like in real life? So we were searching for that. And a lot of schools have their marketing, right? We're a STEM school, or we're a humanities school, we are very excited right now to be talking with a local foundation about building our curriculum about being a business school and entrepreneurial school. Creativity, curiosity, and entrepreneurship. And so letting kids explore what they're passionate about. We have 3D printers and Cricut machines and a laser cutter, and we've got kids. We're opening up an Etsy store as a school so that kids can sell their jewelry and the stuff that they make with all of this stuff, and can understand what's my cost, what's my budget, what can I sell it for, and what's my profit, and how do I manage all of those things. And so building our identity not around still around creativity and curiosity and being engaged, but with the tangible outcome of we're actually building entrepreneurial skills in these kids, which are the skills that are going to be necessary in the new economy created by AI and all the tech that's coming out. Curiosity and creativity are the edges that humanity is going to always maintain. And so focusing on that and on how market systems reward that and entrepreneurship is just, I mean, we're so excited that that's what we've coalesced around in this opportunity. I'm not quite ready to announce it. I sent an email right before. I said, "Hey, can I announce this today on the podcast?" And I didn't get a no, but I didn't get an email back. So I don't want to say names and stuff, but I'm a meeting this afternoon, and it looks like this is a path we're going to go down, and it's really incredible. So
it's so exciting. And then for you as an entrepreneur too, Nate, it must be really rewarding to be able to pass that kind of entrepreneurial spirit along to your students.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, I think too, that unconventional education and entrepreneurship go hand in hand, right? That so much of these sort of alternative schools and spaces promote, independence, autonomy, critical reflection. Again, like you said, curiosity and creativity. These are the traits that are necessary for successful entrepreneurship. So, of course, it makes sense that that many folks who are in unconventional education environments choose to become entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, as it may be, and that you're really helping to have that as sort of a core function of the Harkness House, which is so exciting. I'd love to ask, Nate, what is the percentage now of your enrollees who are part-time versus full-time?
Yeah, so we are about percentage. So we are, I would say 80-20 right now. So it's almost 80% full-time, but 20% part-time. And what's so cool about that 20% is they sort of, we've had people come and then take a trimester off because they're doing a sport or whatever it is, and then come back to us and take another class or enroll in a 2-day program. And it's such a really cool and flexible community that helps us, I think, stay true to our core values of focusing on kids first. So you look at traditional schools and they focus on curriculum first, like what I need to teach you. And instead of that, we say that we're going to place kids' curiosity over any curriculum that we have. Traditional schools focus on compliance. When you can eat, go to the bathroom, have a snack, talk to your friends, be on your cell phone, check whatever, which is not how the adult world works. I've been in a lot of college campuses doing a lot of things. I've been in a lot of workshops. And when I have a biological need, I just leave the room. I don't raise my hand and ask anyone. So traditional schools place compliance really over any sort of creativity that kids have. And we flip that. We say your creativity, your autonomy, who you are is more important than complying with minuscule rules around the school. And then the third part is by doing that, we're able to place kids over everything else instead of adults before kids or putting the schedule before kids or putting what we want to teach before kids, putting kids first. And the homeschool community really keeps us true to that. And we develop our curriculum outside of the core curriculum of math and literacy, history and science. We develop all of our electives in conjunction with our kids and families. So this trimester, we have a biblical lit class because that was an interest of the community. We have a knitting class. We have a fishing class. We have a Ikigai class that I teach, which is the Japanese concept of purpose in life. So we're talking to 6th, 7th, and 8th eighth graders about how do you find your purpose and meaning in life. And they really get it because it's an easy, simple Japanese concept. Four concentric overlapping circles. You've got what are you good at? What are you passionate about first? What are you good at? What does the world need and what can you make money doing? And in the center there, where they all overlap, that's your ikigai. And so we're reading a book about ikigai. And what's so fun is by creating curriculum like that way, I get to keep learning. I know nothing. One of our kids was watching Shogun, an FX series, I think, and came across this concept and was in, and talked to me about it. I said, that's really interesting. I heard of that. And so we bought a couple of books and now we're reading them together. And I like to tell the kids, my ikigai is helping you guys find your ikigai. And I know that I'm passionate about it. I hope I'm good at it. I think I am. And I know the world absolutely needs it. And I'm trying to figure out how to make money doing it. I'm quite getting, we're getting there. Certainly
So great.
partnering with foundations and creating an entrepreneurial school is going to get us there, that kind
I
of thing.
love it. Yeah. And it seems like this is what families and learners are seeking, right? That they want a more relevant educational experience. They want more flexibility. I love that ability that you talk about of, if a family needs to travel or take some time off, there's different sort of enrollment options for them. They're not locked into a particular type of schooling the way they are in the conventional system. And also these sort of on-ramps that the more flexible educational model provides to families who may want to dip their toes in an alternative to a conventional school, or homeschooling families that are curious about what a 5-day a week or full-time program might be like. And then they're able to, again, have that on-ramp into something different and scale up as needed. And it's
And
that, yeah, sorry, go ahead, please.
yeah, to touch on that. I think that's, how we've evolved even further. So we opened up another commitment was we're middle school, middle school, middle school, middle
Yeah.
school, because it's so overlooked. By the time you get to high school, you're clever and you're doing varsity sports and you're taking AP classes or whatever. And there's a little more attention there. You're also, a little more grown up and easier to kind of converse with than my 13 and 15 and a half year olds right now that I have in my own home. So it's an overlooked time by families, by schools, by communities, because they don't want us around, and
Mm.
it's easy to not be around them, and so we said middle school, middle school, middle school, but then we got this demand from
Yes.
parents that were like, "You're stopping at ninth grade? No, we want more of this." And so we had two ninth graders last year who would have been in their last year with us. And this is the great thing about flexibility in these different pathways is we met with those parents, both of whom the students were coming from a traditional private school to us. So they were tuition paying parents. They weren't homeschool parents. And they'd only been with us for a year, just ninth grade. They were not happy with the option that they had. Either it was a K-8 school and they were looking for, an option, or they didn't like the high school options at their current enrollment. And so they came to us for a year. And after a year said, we want more of this. And we said, we can't meet the attendance requirements by the state because we're only approved through ninth grade. But if you write us a letter as your participating agent saying that you want to homeschool your daughters, we will be your participating agent. You will technically be homeschooling, and we'll help your students enroll in Nashua Community College a mile down the road. We'll take them back and forth, transport them back and forth during our school day, and they can dual enroll in homeschooling and the Nashua Community College program, which so our 15 and a half year olds, anyone that's 15 or older, can now enroll in Nashua Community College classes. And our whole reason for not having a high school was we don't want to deal with college interface and a guidance department and recommendations and AP classes and all the different courses. And so we just focus on middle school and a core curriculum. And then we said, well, Nashua Community College right down the road. New Hampshire has great laws about dual enrollment and high school and college credit simultaneously. Let's be a high school and just offload 10th through 12th grade curriculum over to Nashua Community College and work with our kids to support them in that curriculum. And so this is the greatest story. Those two girls, both of whom we have records on because they came from traditional schools. So I got files this thick that you get from a traditional school with standardized tests and grades and all the other nonsense. And both students, last time they took the state test in New Hampshire was eighth grade. They both in English and in math scored either substantially below or below grade level, so a level one or a level two on a 4-point scale. After midterms, which was last week, they have straight A's at Nashua Community College. So this tells me two things. Those tests don't always measure what we say they're measuring because a kid doesn't engage in, I don't care about the multiple choice, dot, 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 dot. But when you give them an opportunity to do something meaningful for their life, something they want to do that advances their goals, a kid that couldn't pass state proficiency is getting an A in Psych 101. I mean, come on, that doesn't add up, except for she wants to learn that material. It's engaging to her. She goes. Her mom called me the other day. She said, I thought she was sick. She was at the kitchen table doing homework. I've never seen it before in my life, she said. And it's like, yeah, because homework's not homework when you want to learn it, right?
Right.
And so like that's just those are the stories that we just want to hear more of, you know?
I love it. I love everything about this, Nate, which is why I wanted to have you back on the podcast too, because being able as a microschool founder to tap into the resources of community colleges, especially at the high school level for dual enrollment purposes, I think is a way to unlock so many more opportunities for microschools across the country. We now know that more than 20% of community college students are high schoolers. So 1 out of every 5 community college students is a high schooler participating in dual enrollment, and which is enabling students to gain kind of college credit and get a head start on college, which ultimately can help defray the cost of college if credits are transferable, and can help to get admitted into college by showing this track record of higher level coursework. But really, at a practical level, enables microschool founders like you that might be running a K-8 school or a middle school microschool to serve families that don't want to leave in at the high school years and really provide that additional option. So I just think it's so exciting. And one of the other things that you're doing, Nate, that I think makes this even more feasible for families is the transportation piece, where so Harkness House is really the foundation. It's the kind of base camp for the students, but you're helping to shuttle them to these programs. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that's a huge piece, particularly for this demographic of students that is coming from traditional schools. So homeschool families, as you know, they're used to driving all over the world, right? You know, they are on the road constantly, don't mind driving here for this class and there for that class. And so that community college approach really makes sense to them, right? But our traditional full-time families, they really are used to this 8 to 3 schedule ish, you know what I mean? Of my kid goes to this place for this amount of time. And so we've said, let's do that. Let's do 8 to 3 with community college. Could you drop them off here? It doesn't matter when their class starts. You drop them off here. We'll get them set for their day. We'll get them organized. We'll make sure that they're ready to go. And then we'll bring them over there for their class. We'll bring them back. When they're here, they can either get support from our teachers to do the work that they have from there, or they can drop into our classes because we have these flexible classes where it's a 1-day program, a 2-day program, a one class. You know, we have kids that come in and out of classes. And so, you know, if you want to read the Ikigai book with us, come to that class, you know, drop in. And if you can't make it today because you've got a psych paper due and tomorrow and you need to take Ikigai to work on what your actual passion is, which is learning psychology, then do that. And it's just so different than checking a box, the kid's in a seat, so I did my job. You know, and that is just a fundamental shift. And I'm not like I was a teacher in public schools. I didn't just check them in the box and that was I taught them English. I taught them language arts. I think I did a very good job in that setting. What I find in this new setting is the adaptability and ability to engage with community resources like Nashua Community College, like, for instance, we went on a field trip to Monadnock Falconry because the kids are doing a science thing on avian stuff. And it was this guy, we spent the day out on a hill like holding falcons on it, like with the spotlight and everything. And kids got super engaged in what they were learning in science class about avian migration because they were actually out there hanging out with birds. And that kind of, and I know they do, traditional systems do that, but our focus is on that. So because this is another thing about flexibility, because we deal with this 2 and 4 day homeschool program, our academic core classes really only run Monday through Thursday. Our full-time students that are in on Friday, those are our field trip days for when we want to go to Monadnock Falconry. They're performance days when it's a stand and deliver moment. We have to say, hey, listen, we're teaching something. Are you learning it? Right. But they become very low stakes. It's not like, oh, I've got a math test today and an English test today and a history test today, and I'm in a traditional high school and I've got to manage all these things. It's like we schedule as a school when we're going to ask you to stand and deliver on any particular. And so and because we're just 100 people at max, right? Even if we are able to organize that in a way that a school that gets any bigger than that really can't. And that is another piece of this. And again, accessing community resources is this sort of decoupling, disentanglement of services that public schools offer, right? So public schools now do my varsity sports, feed me breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a lot of, and I'm not saying those aren't good functions. I'm just saying coupling them with education is maybe not the most effective delivery of service. And so in decoupling and just focusing on academics, you obviously haven't heard me talk about our varsity football team, right? But we do have a varsity volleyball player who, because of our flexible scheduling, is able to do her AAU volleyball and her local district volleyball, right? Because she's a private school student, she still has access to those local district resources. So she plays for her local district team. She plays for AAU teams. And when she's out there on the volleyball court and missing our classes, we say, you're learning valuable lessons there. And we'll get you caught up on what we're doing here. And that's been just an incredible difference for us. There's a tech aspect to that, which is also highlights our entrepreneurship and flexibility, which we audio record all our classes and train AI to review those classes with kids that have missed them. So our students today, we started doing that last year. Our students today, like this volleyball star that we have that is going to miss some classes for tournaments and games and practices, can keep up with the class and not miss a thing. And would I recommend that we go to an all AI, you can do it all the time all on your own? No, I think you need that human interaction. But what this support allows us to do as a school is to focus really on the relationship with the kid and understanding them and understanding we're accessing their intelligence and what they want to be doing. And we get this tech support, AI support on the rest of it, on making sure that we can all stay caught up with the content.
I love everything about this, Nate. And, especially lucky for you in New Hampshire that you have that accessibility, that private school and homeschooled students in New Hampshire have the accessibility of partnering with local public schools for sports or specific classes or extracurriculars. That's not something that every state allows, and it enables you truly to be able to unbundle education in New Hampshire in these creative ways, which is just so fantastic for families and for learners. I'd love to go back to your thoughts about dual enrollment, because I'm sure that some of the current school founders who are listening to the podcast are intrigued by this idea of partnering with community colleges to potentially expand into high school programs. Is there anything that you specifically did with Nashua Community College? Did you reach out to them to make connections, or are you helping families to enroll? Because sometimes it may not seem as straightforward. There are, forms that you have to fill out or placement tests you might have to take. I guess, what is that? What did you do, and what advice do you have for founders who are looking to partner with community colleges in specific ways?
Yeah, so so much there, and I want to touch on one thing first, which is you mentioned New Hampshire, and this is something for founders. State by state, this is very, very different, right? So I got super lucky. I happen to live in New Hampshire, but in doing my research in founding a school, we have programs in New Hampshire that make it uh, a lot. I wouldn't say it's not easy, but it's friendlier than it is in some. Like I grew up in New York. I wouldn't want to found a school in New York, maybe. Nothing against New York. I love it. But it's more restrictive, right? There's more, I would imagine. That's maybe I don't. But you can go to places like State Policy Network and find out rankings of states for openness to school choice programs. So and to this flexibility. So a couple of things that we have in the state. You mentioned the education freedom accounts, which are massive for our students, and in New Hampshire, homeschool students access those funds as well. So whether they're full-time enrolled with us or homeschool students, if they meet certain income requirements, they have access to a portion of the state fund. I wish it was more, but we have great friends at Children's Scholarship Fund that are working on that every day here in New Hampshire. But we also have great dual enrollment policies at the state level. We have great Learn Everywhere policies at the state level that acknowledge kids for work they do outside of school as learning opportunities. And so that's largely come in the last 2 to 6 years under the current governor's administration and the Department of Ed that's currently here in New Hampshire. So school choice in New Hampshire is something on your mind. There's an election in November, and it does matter for school choice. It matters on a lot of issues, but and so that has been an incredible program. Those programs Learn Everywhere. It makes it easy for us. So what we did with National Community Colleges, I literally went to their website. It was very informative, and I found who their dual enrollment coordinator was. And I called her up and I said, "Hey, we're right down the road. Here's what we're thinking." And she said, "Amazing idea. Let's do it." And I didn't know this at the time, but what's so cool is there's a great charter school down in Manchester that does Spark Academy that does this actually, but they're housed in the community college. Like the middle school, high school is housed in the community college. And so I said, "Oh, that's awesome. And then that's when I said, well, maybe we can do a high school if we partner with the community college." And so, like I said, the charter schools, again, it is technically a public school in New Hampshire, so the funding mechanisms are different and constraints are different, but they do offer opportunities to be entrepreneurial in that regard, to think of school in a different way. And so we have fantastic charter schools in New Hampshire as well. So it's a real environment of, and also just live free or die, so it's a real environment of that rugged independence that is, that I deserve a choice in how my kid learns. And my kid deserves a choice. And by the way, this is not a controversial issue because at 18, we give every kid school choice or not school choice, right? Why is that 13th grade? What is it about 13th grade that makes choice important at that age, but not at 13? And so, and I would say any politician on either side of the aisle that is going to vote against school choice, who he or she attended a private school, is pretty elitist. To say that it was okay for my family to choose because of the community or personal resources that we had, but it's not okay for that family to choose because they're stuck to their zip code and they don't have the other resources to get out of that. And I just think that, consider that. Maybe that should be part of the roll call when you vote. What was your K-12 experience? Yeah, I got a little on a soapbox there. Sorry.
No, it's great. Yeah. I mean, any time that we can sort of expand choice and options for families and learners and inspire more education entrepreneurs like you, especially former school teachers like you, and the majority of the founders I talk to, who leave a conventional classroom to do something different and create that schooling environment is possible. I think that's all a great thing. And so where do you see this going, Nate, I'm especially curious to think about where you think the high school model is going to go for you. I know this is sort of the pilot time period, but what is your sense of expanding this high school model in the coming years?
So it's two roads diverging in the woods right now. So there, and maybe not. Maybe there's a third path in the middle. I'm a middle child. I love the middle road. And so on the one hand, we could try to go all official, you know, get approved through 12th grade with a dual enrollment program, make it official with National Community College, get recognized by the state, and then have to do 10 fire drills a year, two, active shooter drills a year, get inspected, and I'm not saying that school safety is not a very, very, very important issue. I'm saying the bureaucracy around school safety makes it difficult to deal with and maintain a state approval from a paperwork perspective when you're as small as we are, right? So it's me and a couple of teachers and no administrative staff, like administrative assistants. So like when we have to do fire drills, I got to fill out paperwork, and so it's that type of thing that adds to a bureaucratic level. So we have to decide whether or not we want to maintain that. Because the flip side is we just become a micro school. We help all of our students enroll in a homeschool program, right? So that they're unenrolled from state rosters, and we can do exactly what we do from an educational standpoint, but just not have the stamp of the state approval. And so, that for us, because we do work with both communities, both a homeschool community and a community of traditional private school families that want an accreditation and some sort of recognition, they might not be ready to take that leap of, yeah, sure, I'm going to sign off on homeschool. Like, what does a high school diploma look like then? What does this, all these questions come up. And my answer to that is we will absolutely make it work for your child, and they're going to be getting college credits. You don't have to worry about high school credits. They're going to be getting college credits at National Community College. But again, it's which is more difficult, dealing with state bureaucracy or helping educate parents and families about the opportunities and options. And is there sort of a middle road where we can do both? Because right now we do both. We do have homeschool kids that attend us very regularly, and just don't take tests with us. That's the only thing that they just don't come on Friday and they don't do the performance piece. But other than that, they take a lot of classes with us. And so there is a middle road. It's just, it's going to be, how do we evolve and grow? How do we staff up? How do we scale? It's all of the sort of startup things that you think about it across industries, right? And so what are we going to focus on? And I know already what we're going to focus on, which is small classes for adolescent learners and focusing on what they want to do. And so what does the future look like? That's it. Mm-hmm. And I am really confident that partnering with National Community College in whatever formal or informal capacity is going to do incredible things for those kids, like the two girls that we have this year that in the traditional system were not demonstrating engagement and performance, and now that they're in community college, they are. And that, more of that, that's what the future looks like.
Yeah, just again, the autonomy that these young people have, the greater level of kind of individual respect that they might feel as a college student instead of as a typical high school student, activates them to, want to achieve. And it's just really exciting. And I also think, back to this idea of sort of on-ramps, I think these partnerships with community colleges or established institutions that are issuing college credits to high schoolers is another way of bringing families into unconventional educational models in a less intimidating way, so that they're able to recognize the partnership benefit that you have. So the students are also able to have that social experience at the Harkness House. They're able to have the mentoring from you and the other educators. They're able to have that stability of the schooling environment, and then also be able to access much higher level academic content that sets them up well for college or career. And it just seems like such an obvious path. And so I'm so thrilled that you're doing it, and so excited to see more micro schools follow in your footsteps all across the country. It just seems like an untapped resource for micro school founders who want to expand to high school but don't necessarily know how.
And I think, just to touch on, because our idea, getting back to the student autonomy, is what I love about community college is you're earning college credit, but it's not putting you it doesn't define your path as I'm going to finish a 4-year degree. So National Community College has an automotive program, pre-engineering programs. It's got electrical programs, plumbing. So kids can go into the trade, they can go into the military, they can go into a profession or a 4-year degree that requires a 4-year degree. But all of those opportunities remain open to them at 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old, and they start exploring them in ways that are really meaningful, which is just so incredible. And then the second thing is our talking about that process in the community that we're building, this entrepreneurship program that we're hopefully launching this afternoon, is gonna allow kids to, in sixth through eighth grade, engage in a program where they are in a simulation, an investment simulation. So our financial literacy is really around the difference between income earning and entrepreneurship and business building. So it's, are you going to how are you going to make your money? And real wealth is created through investment, not through income, because people tend to live into their incomes the way they live into their houses, right? You fill what you have. And so saving and investing is how to build wealth. And so we're in an organization that did a pilot program where they helped kids invest money when they were adolescents, and when they graduated college, they all had 5 figures in a retirement account just because of when they started, right? And so it's that idea that we'll put kids in a simulation when they're in middle school. When they start high school, they get to start playing with some real money, and then by the time they graduate us, they'll have something to their names that is not only a lesson in financial independence, but also a piece of financial independence, that if you just sit it in a retirement account and let it grow for the next 40 years, those kids will be massively better off than if they didn't engage in the program. And so teaching that type of thing, along with engaging kids in their own entrepreneurial enterprises with what they want to create and what they want to make, is just, I'm so excited about where this goes, and the opportunities for kids to really, instead of becoming what we think they should be, becoming what they were meant to be. And there's a great quote by an Indian guru, Sadhguru. He says, "A child is not a legacy, it is a life, it is a human life, and it deserves to be respected." And that's how we feel about adolescence, and how we feel about everyone, and
I love it.
hoping to promote.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also ties in with what especially Gen Zers, the sort of rising generation, is looking for, right? Studies show that they are more entrepreneurial than their predecessor generations. And actually, I just wrote an article recently about how Gen Zers are much more interested in micro credentials than sort of traditional degrees, and compared to, again, older generations. And so, again, these community college partnerships where they can come out with certificates in, IT or cybersecurity or some of the trade and skilled trades, that really sets them up for success in whatever path they take. So it's just such an exciting time, and an opportunity, I think, for education entrepreneurs to recognize the flexibility that these different models offer, and parents to know what's possible for their kids' education. So Nate, I know you're always willing to talk to education entrepreneurs, and share, what your experience is. If folks are listening and excited about these partnerships with community colleges or high school programs, or just want to hear about your founder journey, what is the best way for people to learn more about the Harkness House and connect with you?
Yeah, great. So the school is at theharknesshouse.org on the web. We also are at the Harkness House on Facebook and Instagram. So you can check out what we do on that. On Facebook and Instagram, you'll see sort of history of the school and pictures of kids doing the work that they're doing in our school. And then you can go to our website to learn more about philosophy, curriculum, our founders, who we are. And then me personally, you can get at my first initial N dot my last name Fellman, Fellman, at theharknesshouse.org. I love hearing from folks that are on a similar journey. And I love learning about, while I know a lot about the state of New Hampshire and how we've done it here, I also love learning about other states. And as a former bureaucrat in the public school system, I'm very familiar with red tape, and I love learning about how other states are doing it. So if there's anything I can do to help anybody navigate their journey, I'd love to help out.
So great. Well, congratulations on your incredible success at the Harkness House just over the past couple of years since your launch, and wishing you much more success over the coming years. Nathan Fellman, thank you so much for being on the Liberated podcast.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for all your work.